Welcome back to another edition of our Real Producers podcast. We are with our November cover feature, Miss Jill Beckett-Hill. Welcome. It's so lovely to have you with us. Jill is with the Beckett Realty Group and someone who is synonymous with class, integrity, just a beautiful reputation in our industry. So this was a highlight for me to be able to feature you and tell your story indeed. Again, why we do this is to get to know Jill on a personal level. And, I think we all know about her, but who is she behind the scenes? How did she get into this? What is her background? And so we're so excited to be speaking with you.
Thank you for having me. It's been quite an honor and pleasure to be featured. So thank you to Real Producers and to you, Katie.
Thank you. You're most welcome. I love every month also personally learning about our features. And at 22 years old, you went to Ohio State for journalism. And you started learning about the TV news business firsthand. You were working at 10 TV with photo shoots and using your skills to connect with people and advocate for them. Would you share with me kind of pick up your journey from that point?
So it's, I graduated a quarter late we were in the quarter system back then at Ohio State, and my father said to me, he said, hey, while you're doing this internship at 10 TV, you need to pay your rent. And so I think you need to get a part-time job. And so I did. And my internship was non-paid at 10 TV, but I loved it. And I worked with a photojournalist, and I really got to see at a very high level cliff notes of what the news industry does, how hard they work, and creating the stories and the content, how it comes in, and then the reaction time. It was really fascinating to me, but also I saw a really difficult side, a sad side. And to me, that was really personal and really reflective of, is this right for me? So with that and kind of going through that track, I started a part-time career at Abercrombie & Fitch as just part-time sales, just to kind of fill in, pay my rent. So my father asked. And that just led to one thing after another. And I do love fashion. I loved creating. It started with my grandmother. She was always so dapper and put together, and she just had a love for fashion. And that carried through with my mother. And so it was a good fit. And then in January, I was asked by Abercrombie to move to Kansas City. And I decided, okay, I've graduated. This might be just a fun career path. So I moved to Kansas City. My mom and I packed up my car, and we drove to Kansas City, Missouri.
What year was this?
This was 1992, January 1992. So I remember my mom and I got past St. Louis, and the only stop we could find, and we were so happy to find McDonald's. Going into, but it was really great. I mean, I lived on the plaza in Kansas City, and I walked to work at Abercrombie & Fitch. And so I worked there for 6 months, and then I was offered a store manager position, and I moved to Chicago. So halfway through that year in 92, I moved to Chicago, ran a store called Fox Valley Mall. And then in 1993, I was offered a top 5 volume store in Cherry Creek in Denver. So once again, I packed them and I moved to Denver, Colorado.
Wow. So what a lot of moving, and these are big positions at that age. Were you intimidated, or were you just full of excitement and you felt like I can do this,
Well, I loved the energy. I loved the fast pace. And more than anything, I just loved the clients, your customers that would come in. And it was just fun. The energy was great. The music was great. It was really...
You had met a lot of cool people.
Yeah, it was really great. And then, working on visuals, really having a visual eye. And at that point, Abercrombie & Fitch was only like 28 stores. So it was a really vital role as that company was just growing. And so I only stayed there for 6 months. So after I left that, and then in September of 1993, or just before then, I moved back to Columbus, and I was a buyer for them. So I lived back in Columbus for a year and a half. And then in 1995, I moved to Boston. So I moved to Boston, and I was a district manager there, and I lived a year and a half. I lived there for a year and a half. And then I did leave the company at that point, and I moved to New York City. So it's just a very fast pace in a matter of, and 5 years, the journey across the United States and the places I got to see and travel. I traveled international, and I did meet my husband at Abercrombie and Fitch. So that was the connection.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's been really fun. And then it's been really fun just kind of fast forward 30 years. My daughter ended up going to school in Boston. So I got to go back and experience Boston for 5 years with her. And now I get to experience New York City again because she lives there. So it's just been this incredible, very circle of life, as your journey, and that my daughter, that's where she would select to go to school, and then she works. So it's been really fun for all of my family.
Well, and speaking of full circle, so Luann Stoya was a guest writer on your story. And I loved that you had that suggestion and we were able to weave her in because you met her when you were at 10 TV. And then you ended up both having your homes in New Albany. And you became friends through love of football and community. Decades after you met, Luann jumped at the chance to interview you in your story. So
it's been really full circle. And it's just, things aren't always a coincidence. You meet people for reasons, and then you may have these separate lives, and everyone's busy with family and age of kids and what directions you're headed those ways, and then how communities really brought you back. And I have loved that. Has been so a passion, love, and satisfying for me of circling back. Just yesterday I was in the office and I ran into a client and we're like, I didn't know you were here. I didn't know you were here. Let's have lunch the next time. So I love that engagement of, being really immersed in a community.
Yeah. So talk us through how you ended up getting your real estate license.
So kind of going back to my journey, so back in 1997, that's when Adam and I got married, they asked Adam to move to Columbus, and we were living actually in Hoboken, New Jersey. So we moved back. We found out I was expecting our first child, and my sister Kelly, I would call her every day, and she goes, "You are driving me crazy." I said, "I'm so bored." I was just so bored. My husband was traveling.
Yeah, you were used to having a fast pace.
Like 4 months pregnant. Once we left New York, I was working at that time for Calvin Klein at 60th and Madison. So that was a really fun career. Wow. So, it's a big change of life. And I have worked out since I was 13 years old. So I've always been busy. I love the structure. So my sister's like, "You're going to go get your real estate license." I think a lot of people kind of fall into that type of a scenario.
And was she a realtor at the time?
Yeah. So Kelly was a realtor with Realty Executives. And so I said, sure, I'll get my license. So I remember on my birthday, my 29th birthday, 2 days later, I made my sister, at that point, we got letters to see if we had passed her test.
Wow.
Kelly opened it, and sure enough, I was licensed at that point. And then in June, right after I had my son Sam, my sister opened her own brokerage, Realty Executives Decision. So I was her. She drove me down, and I had the baby, and I went upstairs and transferred my license. Amazing. So it was a really great way for me to, work with my sister. And my parents are very surprised because as kids, you fight like siblings. But it was a really great opportunity for me being a new mom, and I would help her behind the scenes. And actually, I did broker price opinions. That was really what I did. So I would drive all over Columbus because my sister did a lot of bank-owned analysis for banks. And so that's how I learned the market. So it was a very high-level Cliff Note introduction of understanding values and pricing homes. And one thing led to another. And I will be 29 years or 28 years coming in March.
Well, I'll ask you this. All of the experience that you had with the positions that you had before, I do think so many of those skills lend itself to running a successful real estate business. Do you feel that a lot of what you did before helped you be a successful agent?
It did. And I had just purchased my own home. My husband and I had just purchased our home. So I had that really knowledge and all of what that experience was like and how fun that was. And it's like, how could I take all of my experiences and ideas and help buyers really find that home sweet home, their dream house, or quite frankly, an investment property that they wanted to, fix up. And then on the other side, being a seller's agent, it was really fun to help curate a property and help them get it to market to have a successful sale. So it was very insightful for me for those experiences. And I love the energy that it brought. And I also, at that time in my life, with the ages of the kids, I had that flexibility.
Yes,
Which is really key.
So I'd love to mention your father, who is a veterinarian and a good businessman. One of the questions we ask is, tell me something you learned from him that stays with you today. I'd love to touch on that.
So I have lots of things that my father had and my mother have really instilled us in the values of our family and siblings. But he was always says, make everything about people first. Be in it for the people. And when you are there to help, listen, guide, be a problem solver, you'll be successful. Just one day at a time. Don't travel too far down the road. Just be in the moment for your clients. And I think as a veterinarian, and as we're coming up against holidays, so many of our holidays were postponed. My father was a large animal veterinarian. I spent many years traveling in the trucks with him from farm call to farm call all over Northwest Ohio. And he would be out delivering a breech calf or a horse. And I got to see all of those. And so it was we lived outside 24/7, weather permitting. We were a very outdoor family because, we had acreage and my father did do large animal surgeries on our property.
Fascinating.
It was great.
Did any of your siblings go into that career?
Yes, I have an older brother, Todd, who's a veterinarian here. So he practices in Hilliard, Dublin, and Westerville, and is a very talented veterinarian. So, and then the three of us, my other two siblings and myself, all are in the real estate business, which my parents just could not believe. But it's worked out really well because we all had our kind of, niches in the business, and it just worked out really well for us to use all of our strengths and the variety of real estate across the board. So it was fun. It's been fun.
So you've also made commitment to your community by serving as a Plain Township trustee since 2022. Would you share with us a little bit about that burden that you have?
So it's been a wonderful experience for me. I had previously served for 9 years on a local board, and I loved working with the schools, the city, the township, and it was for the performing arts. So I loved that energy that brought me. I also loved the arts education program. So I took a break from that, and when my daughter was finishing high school before college, and then an opportunity came up to submit a resume for an opening on the township board. And I thought about it for a number of days, and I said, this is the right time for me. This is a calling. I want to be re-engaged in the growth and, how we serve the community. Because in the Plain Township, the primary service we provide is fire service. So it's been fascinating and so rewarding to see how the fire department really services a community and manages for those emergencies that come up. So it's been fantastic.
So we're going to talk about your husband, Adam. I hear you say he's been your pillar of strength and support. And at the magazine release party, it was so beautiful to see him get emotional.
Yeah. I'll probably get emotional thinking about it because he got me so off guard, but it is very true.
He just beamed and was just so proud of you, and now also helps with the business. And it was just a beautiful thing to witness. He got his real estate license and joined your team in 2018. And so just talk about him and your beautiful children for a moment, if you would.
So when Adam retired early from Abercrombie, it was a pivotal moment in my career. Yeah. And it's another time when things happen for reasons. Yeah. And so a funny story is I remember a pediatrician, Adam shows up for a doctor's appointment with the kids, and I wasn't there. And our Dr. Brown, he's so great. He goes, Adam, I haven't seen you in 12 years. And we joked about that. And I think it was such a gift because he was able to have the time. He was the lacrosse and field hockey dad for Sid Sports. He helped Sam at that point during his senior project. And our son with special needs, and working through all of those. It was just, and he was able to allow me the flexibility in my schedule to grow the business. And so it really was that pillar of strength on the back end.
Yeah.
And then I said to him one night over dinner, I was like, I'm starting to drown a little bit. I need some support. So I think you should get your license. He went online and signed up that night and got right in. And Adam is a math major, and he's just, so a lot of this was very easy for him. And I think his experiences as store design and development for Abercrombie was really dovetailed nicely.
Yes.
So that really, and then I'm going to be very candid. It was a little bit of a struggle. I realized I'm not a great trainer. I'm flying and he's trying to catch up to speed, and he's like, remember, there's 20 years of knowledge in that brain of yours, So it was really a pivotal moment that I had to figure out how to really manage that piece as a married couple in working together. And for the kids too, I think my daughter was really pleased. She's like, it's so nice not to talk about real estate at dinner anymore, Mom. And, that took, because we'd have to catch up, right? That was our time to catch up too. So we really worked I think, effortlessly now together with all of that. But it was definitely a transition, and it was one that really worked well for our family. So I think we worked really hard and to make it really a smooth transition down the road. So we kind of worked out the kinks.
Yeah.
And so I'm so grateful because he has loved working with all of our clients, and actually that social interaction, that one-on-one that he gets with them as we're helping them at whatever phase they are, either buying or selling. So it's been rewarding.
It's really awesome. And I recall at the dinner that when he was with Abercrombie, did he do a lot of traveling?
Yeah.
So he was really,
Yeah, before he left in 2016, it's the month of December 2015. He is in Dubai the whole entire month. And at that point, I had, Sam's a sophomore in high school, and Sydney was in 8th grade. So it was really hard. And, I always joked about, I always had first, second, and third shift, of being, no matter what age the kids are, kind of working on that. And so it's a lot. I learned to, really execute time management, because I had to schedule the kids as appointments into the calendar so I could block that time out. She really worked hard to maintain that balance.
Wow. So you love the fall season, and so you're a big Buckeye fan and football. Would you just share with us kind of where that probably stems from attending OSU?
Well, yes. So we grew up, and my father was one summer, my father turned off, and mother, I have to claim my mother was really probably at the helm of this decision. We had no TV. And so we did have a swimming pool growing up, and my dad played the Cincinnati Reds. We listened to Johnny Bench era. Yes. So it's really instilled young age of sports and learning sports myself. My father and my brothers were avid golfers and basketball players. And so we just were a very sports family. And my dad loved the Ohio State Buckeyes. He used to, before he went to vet school, he filled up Woody Hayes' gas tank at the gas station. We were just such a family, and we would come down to games, and so going to Ohio State was a really natural fit for me. Yeah. But my first date with my husband was at a Boston Red Sox game. He loved sports, and our friendship really began during March Madness of 1995, because he says, "How do you know basketball?" And I'm like, well, he was a Maryland Terps fan. I was like, oh, Gary Williams. And he couldn't believe it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, he was like, oh, I can't believe you understand sports. So that's kind of where it's just escalated. So if I'd go back to broadcast journalism today, it would be in the sports sector.
Oh,
because we do watch sports 24/7. And Sam, my older son, I mean, they do picks every week, their own little Sam and Adam, NFL football picks. So it's just been a passion. I think Sydney, our daughter, she also, playing field hockey and lacrosse and soccer. So it's just been in our woven into
It
us.
sounds very like it's just a tie that brings the family together too.
It really is.
Nostalgic. Yeah. So we were talking about cooking shows and how I love to watch them, but I don't necessarily cook a whole lot. But so you love to cook and HGTV. You said, my mother shared her love of cooking with me, and I've inherited that passion. It's actually one of my love languages. Your team members, Hallie and Gabby, I'd love to mention them. They are absolutely wonderful women. And Gabby is a veterinarian. My team members, Hallie and Gabby, also love cooking, and we trade recipes and pictures of our creations. I love it. Oh, and we swap dog and family fun pictures all the time. Talk to me about your food love and your passion, and what was one of your favorite meals that your mom would cook for the family?
So my mom, we always grew up with so for my birthdays, my mom always made me this Italian dish called cavattini, which was a pasta dish with a red sauce. And instead of meat, it was Italian sausage. And so she just always had something really tasty. My mom also is a really great baker. So for Thanksgiving, she has to bring all the desserts. So I don't really bake at all. It's just funny how much my mother did it. I love to open up the refrigerator. It's okay, what am I going to curate today? What is left in this refrigerator? I need to make it. So from soups to pastas to baked, we'd have a lot of casseroles growing up too. But she was just so creative and really just kind of instilled the importance of just eating good food and simple food. It wasn't elaborate, but it was just watching her. And I would come home from school and she would be in the kitchen. So I would sit down right in the kitchen. I think I just learned so many of her skills by just watching her and then meal prepping. And so I've done that now with my daughter. So she does that a lot too. So it's just been a really fun family thing for us to be in the kitchen. And during COVID, we would do it. It would start around 4:30 and we would curate something really fun for dinner. So we've just made it. And even when she comes home from school, I say school, she's now, an adulting in New York City, we cook together. So she wants to be home. She wants to eat at home. So we've really enjoyed all of that. So it's just kind of, and I think selling houses, it's kind of like, what's the pulse of your home?
Yes.
It's the kitchen.
Yes.
So whenever I'm showing houses, I'm like, where are you gathering? And it's always in the kitchen.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you're building a house, think about where everyone's going to circulate and where you're going to live. Is there enough seating for your family size? Will you have gas? How's your flex space going to tie in? And I love all of that. And then if I've got a client who's going to be renovating, talk through all of these creative things and where people live. And it's always the kitchen.
Yeah.
It always comes back to it's all about the kitchen.
Yes. Oh, I love it. My mom is also, ironically, and my sister really kind of inherited that she cooks a lot more than I do, but my mom is known for her pies and her anything she cooks. She just, whatever it is, it's delicious. And
one of my treasured gifts from my great aunt is she hand typed all of my mother's recipes. And she did it 4 times for each child. And we not only have one book, but we have 2 recipe books. And it's probably one of my most treasured
priceless
things in my office are these books. And I love hearing all of the stories of families, how things are passed down, and this is one. And even, my kids will get them too, because it was a really treasured gift. And this gift now is probably 35 years old. But it's really special to have those things. And they're simple, but they're good. Blueberry buckle, it's still my kid's favorite recipe probably in the book, but it's fun.
Forget about it. Sounds wonderful. One of the questions Luann asked is, why is this team concept so important to you with the beautiful women on your team? And when did you get to a moment where you said, okay, I think I'm ready to start a team? And has it been recent or has it been for a while now?
Well, I had been so this is kind of another story that's not a coincidence, but I had really been saying to Adam, I said, I think if we're going to grow and have, the struggle was us going on vacation as a family because we would have a lot of transactions going on. It's hard to leave. We had been talking about all of this, and ironically, I had received an email probably back in May of 2024, randomly from Gabby. And so she had been following me and just sent me this really nice note saying, if you ever have time for coffee, I'd love to talk with you. So, of course, naturally, you go to Google. You start Googling.
Story so much.
You go to Google and you start like saying, okay, who is this? Who's this Gabriella Durig? And I'm like, oh, she's from California. That's the one state we spend the most time in. If we're not in Ohio, is in California. I'm like, oh, she's in California. And then she's a veterinarian. And my heart just bursted. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to meet her. I called her within probably 10 minutes of receiving her email because I was sitting at home. I remember at my desk just going through, catching up on emails. And so we met a number of times, and then she joined in August last year. So, and then Hallie, who I had known for a while, that happened on a walk with my husband, walking the dogs with her dogs. And, she also is a resident of New Albany. And so that just kind of led from one conversation to another. And the timing was right for us to then, so we doubled our size very quickly. But it's been a really fulfilling and natural fit for all of us to be really inspiring one another. I love that what they bring is what I don't sometimes see. So I have a really good friend and client, and we had a conversation, and he said, reverse mentoring is so important in every business because we all can bring different aspects and insights to your business model, and you can share back certain because of the years of experience.
Absolutely.
So we meet in the office. I did get a satellite office this year as well, so we could all collaborate as well. So we really have just really grown because of that depth and strength and divide and conquer on this couple projects. So it's been wonderful.
Well, and when we featured Gabby as a agent on the rise, and she's you're cut from the same cloth. I don't know Hallie as well, but just the fact that you found each other again is just, I don't believe it to be coincidental either.
I think that for all of us, the core values are parallel. And I think with that, and then all of the energy that we can bring really kind of just allows us to really network, open the horizons, and see how we can just help our clients has been just so refreshing. And I think it's that energy that really keeps me going. And then I think what was really also important for me is I know how hard I work. And I also know how important it is that we get some downtime to stay really engaged. So I think it was that balance, that work-life balance. We all have kids at different ages. So I think that was good to say, really working through our calendars to say, okay, I'm here this weekend. I'm going to take all the phone calls and vice versa. So I think that balance has really allowed us to thrive and be more engaging and insightful and just more productive, actually.
So I want to ask, 29 years of a career, and again, I think your name is synonymous with just excellence and quality and integrity and class. If you could give advice in terms of like how you've sustained such a wonderful business for so long and make it look effortless. Do you have a secret, or because this is it can be a very tough business to be in. There are lots of highs and lows and unexpected things, whether it be market driven or something happens in a deal that you just couldn't have anticipated. What are some, I guess, key pillars of your business or ways that you approach? And have you pretty much kept those the same throughout all of these years?
I've tried to, I think with the highs and lows of this real estate business, I always seek to find grace Give yourself grace in all of those moments, grace for the good times, thankfulness for that. And then when things are challenging or didn't go as expected, how do you handle that with grace and kindness and take this as a learning opportunity? And starting out was really hard because you're just getting your feet wet, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I always said, when you were new, and advice to new agents is saying, I know it's frustrating, but wake up every day with this to say, okay, yesterday was a tough day, or try this again. I think being engaged, my sister gave me really great advice and said, Jill, you need to get in the office. Get in the office, be in the action so you can hear, because things happen very last minute. So she instilled some great things to keep that sustainable, and then just be thoughtful, authentic, and just try not to get discouraged in this business. And I think there's enough business for everybody. And I think you just have to just stay the course. Mm-hmm. And, for me, it was always about who I met along the way. It was always the key piece for me.
I believe you mentioned also when we were together at your magazine release party, having fun. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I love that. You had some real bits of wisdom that evening that I think really helped the other agents in the room. And
so I've always felt, a couple other things too is, every time I'm with a client and their families, we've always just had this really great conversation above and beyond it's more than just real estate. You're learning about a family. It's a family that wants to call this place home. How can I give them connectors to make a seamless transition? How can I give them an excellent mover or an excellent painter or anything to help make that just saying, oh my gosh, how can I help? And it was really just so fun for me. And then also when, you can introduce them to friends and then have dinner with them. And so it's just more about learning of who they are, because we all have the same goals. We all just want a house that we love to call home.
yeah.
And so I just have always enjoyed the fun piece. So thankfully, all of my points are always somewhat engaged. It's not always business. Yes, it is, but it's knowing getting to know your clients as well.
Absolutely.
And so we just try to make that as, effortless as possible. I think being prepared is my number one goal, because I try to finish every day knowing that I have extra time built in the next day for an unexpected call.
Yeah.
Because that's how real estate happens. Mm-hmm. I mean, there have been times very last minute where you'll get a call and says, I need to get this on the market in the week. Can you help me? And you want to be ready to go. So I've always tried to say, be prepared. It kind of goes back to when the kids were little. If I didn't have everything packed at night, you never know what was going to happen in the morning. If someone was sick or crying, they wouldn't get in the car. And if I wasn't prepared to get to appointments, everything kind of unravels. So I just kind of kept that level of trying to be prepared. So, and I have a really good friend who always says, and I guess here at this is, don't get tired. Don't get tired. And that's easier said than done.
Oh, indeed.
And so I always just kind of I always think of my friend Kristen always telling me, don't get tired. Don't get tired.
Well, I saw you love to work out, so you're passionate about that. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that helps you not to get tired, like keeping yourself?
Oh, yes.
What is your favorite thing to do for working out? Do you have a kind of go-to?
It really kind of started back in my early 40s. My husband was doing Peloton, and they were all getting together for doing triathlons and bike stuff. And I was like, all right, either I join them or I'm going to be left out. So I joined a group of women and we would run. And so we were doing half marathons. So I still run today. So it's really what I love the most. And so I still run, but my newfound favorite is Pilates. Mm-hmm. I do Pilates 3 to 4 days a week.
Okay.
Because the great thing about Pilates is, running I have to do first thing in the morning. But at the end of the day, if you've had a stressful day and I can pop into a Pilates, to me, it's a very zen moment.
Yeah,
and relaxing.
Really a mind reset, for sure.
And this morning I had a quick 20 minutes, so I got on the Peloton bike. So for me, I think it's because sometimes you have such a full plate and it's a lot that you've got to get through some days. If I do a quick 20-minute bike ride, it reduces my anxiety, clarity, and I can just process everything. I'm just so much more productive. And that really came from, starting running about 17 years ago of that and what what clarity it brought me. And then not only that, I am able to do those workouts with friends. So it became a social hour.
Yeah, sure.
So it was just a really nice little way to kind of just, my kids were old enough I could go and I could start to work out and they would be fine at home. And so it's been a huge, I think, stress reducer for me and just kind of really resets my daily agenda. And then I can, when you've got a busy to-do list, I can get through it a lot easier.
I'll have this be your last question. I love that Luann asked you this. What is one weird thing you like that nobody would probably guess?
It's so funny. So it is really weird. I remember when I first met my husband, Adam. He loves coffee. Still loves coffee. So I was trying to become a coffee drinker. And I'm getting there, but I can't drink straight coffee. So I either put a little creamer.
Yes.
Or I would actually mix some hot chocolate with coffee, and then I'd always put Cool Whip on top.
So the answer is Cool Whip.
Cool Whip is the answer. And I was like, and then you start reading the ingredients.
Right.
All of that goes into it. And I was like, oh, okay, I got to kind of wean myself from the Cool Whip. But honestly, that is the weird thing. People, like, I always had tubs of Cool Whip in my freezer, and I would leave it in there. I would take it out, a spoonful of Cool Whip. It's just like, I don't know what it is, but it's always been.
It is delicious.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And it is like nothing else. Like, there's just
I just
nothing.
need to start making homemade. I just need to get the real cream and start making those. But my mother will bring her pumpkin pie with her homemade Cool Whip. So it is just like, it is the craziest thing. I know, but it is true.
Well,
so I had to come clean when Luann asked. I said I had to be honest. I'm going to share this, and it is what it is.
It is delicious. Hey, I have a feeling that you're pretty healthy overall, so I think, a little bit of chemical.
Cheat a little bit. Like, it's just
here and there won't.
You just got to go for it. It's just all good. It's all about balance.
Absolutely.
All about balance.
So, well, any final thoughts for us before we kind of wrap up your incredible journey? I think there are so many more questions I would love to ask you, but for the sake of time here.
So I would just love to kind of ask you a question.
Okay.
So, this has been such a great journey for me. And, you kind of have to take a leap. It's, sitting down and kind of being really reflective. And I've really enjoyed it. So I have to compliment you and your team of seeking us out to do this, because I think we don't sit around table closings all the time. Sometimes we may not network, but you've really created a really great network for us to gather. What's this gained for you?
Making a difference in a space that I really respect and love. And I know that to be the case. So working with top 500 realtors, typically they have their head down and they're doing the work and they're running a successful business. And typically people in that space don't take time to reflect on the journey per se and how far they have come and how hard they do work. And so for me, it's all about the human story. Years ago, I had a business idea. I'd be driving to my very stressful title job, and StoryCorps would come on every Friday morning on WOSU, on the radio. And I feel like it was like at 7:30 or 7:40, and they would pause and someone would be telling a very vulnerable story for 5-10 minutes, and time in the world would stop. And I was like, that's what it's about. It's the human story, and we all have one to tell. And I think there's a real generalization of what we think we know about people, especially in our industry where we're showing highlight reels and I'm a successful realtor, but everybody has a story to tell. So
I think you bring up a really key piece in that, and that is pause. How do we hit the pause button?
It is such a fast-paced life.
It is a really fast pace, and how do we hit pause? And how do we utilize technology? How do we think, and prepare our day so we have time for pause? There are a lot of times throughout my day and things are moving really fast, and I'm having to remind myself, hit pause. You don't need to respond right now.
Yes.
And I've really thought about that. Like, I was up really early this morning getting through some stuff, because I knew you and I were meeting. And I loved that I hit, a timed text message, not to send till 9.
Yes.
So I was trying to hit pause for me to not send these text messages too fast. In the meantime, I get the text from one that I was sending, and then I was able to delete it because she had answered before I asked for another agent. And I love that piece because we need to pause. And then when you're talking with agents, it's always good to say, how are you doing? And there's a lot of people in the industry that I've known for years and just so admire. And I love our industry, and I love the people I get to work with and other agents. And I'm kind of like, how are you today? Have another little, 5-minute sidebar with a conversation of how's your family, or I saw your article in Real Producers. I love that piece because you really have connected us. And I think more than ever, it's so, so very important. So the work is so good. And now for me and with Gabby and the team, we want to collaborate too and be a part of it and be engaged. And I think that's a bigger piece is we have so much engagement on our business, but how do you engage in the broader real estate sector?
And I think you hit such a key point. I do think it's more important than ever because it's been an interesting year. I have noticed there's such a ramping up of that fast-paced nature. And at the end of the day, that these key relationships with your peers in our industry genuinely can strengthen the business, your business, and our community, personally and professionally. We've got to get rid of some of the noise that's going on. And I think it is so easy. It can be such an emotionally charged business that you forget to be human at times. You're just trying to get through that next text or that next email, or let me just solve this problem. So I think it's more than ever also it's a discipline to take a moment to actually pause and engage.
Well, I had a text from another colleague, and she sent me a text. She's like, I just have to say what a joy it's been to work together. And I was like, right back at you, and your note made my day. And it was so nice to share those types of simple words and renewed energy, as I call it, because you work really hard to make everything go smooth for your clients. And it's really grateful when you say those types of kudos and share, thank you, that was really, really a fantastic opportunity, or just to collaborate together or to work together. I think it's so key. And that's a really strong 2 words that we need to say thank you more to our industry as well. So I think that goes down to our title companies, all of our vendors.
Yes.
Everybody's working really hard to be good connectors to make a stronger, broader Central Ohio, which I think is spoken volumes for the community we've grown into.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's why we exist. So thank you, Jill. And we'll see you next month.
Thanks.